Well, there's so many definitions out there as what is a brand, and most of them, in many cases, the ones that I've read or studied, have a level of accuracy of truth to them, because a brand can be very complex. There's a lot of things that go into a brand. I think it was Jeff Bezos that said, "Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room." And so that's true. I mean, I think your brand is not what you do, it's all of the things wrapped around what you do and more that form your brand. And so there's a lot of definitions out there. I think it was Richard Branson, too, that talked about brands that were very successful always had a level of texture to them. And what he meant by that is so many brands were plastic. They're just perfectly smooth. They don't have that level of connection to people that goes into relationship building and all of the peripheral things or the unique things that we do. We can get so perfectly branded that we become plastic, and that's not good. So we want a level of texture to our brand, and so we think about, like, what are the things that add texture to our brand at Walden's? And there's a number of those things that we intentionally and very specifically, Bev and I discuss as we build our brand in the marketplace. But I wanted to share with you today what my definition of a successful brand is. It can join all the other hundreds that are out there, but this is the one really to me that's the most meaningful. This one really cuts to the core, and I think it weighs in very heavy for all businesses, especially boutique businesses, and more specifically, photographers. And that is that successful brands form people's expectations and then fulfills them. And what I mean by that is everyone comes to you with an expectation. The question is not whether they have an expectation or not. The question is who formed it, right? I mean, that's really the ultimate question. And if they're just, searching Google and calling you, they still have some of what of an expectation. And I think highly successful brands and brands that are especially high-end type of brands have to invest a lot of time and energy in forming people's expectations. Now, what's unusual about this in my mind is it's as much what you don't do as what you do. Because we feel like sometimes, more is more is better. And the reality is that's rarely true, especially for photographers that are looking to make a splash with a high-end offering. I mean, this goes across the board, folks, for everything. The more things you try to learn, the less you become specialized or excellent in one area. Great image makers, great artists, have a style. They have some specific directions that they take so they can hyper focus on those things and take it to the next level. I've often said the difference between good and great artists are not big things. They're little things. And they're culminations of little things, because there's so many out there that get the big things right, but yet they still don't have any identity. Maybe, like I said earlier, they're like plastic. So, they're just too well-rounded. We have to have a little bit of whatever makes us us and whatever makes our art unique and different. So if we're going to be successful in the marketplace, I think we have to form people's expectations and then fulfill them. Now, I think fulfilling people's expectations becomes pretty easy when you formed it. If you formed it the right way, and if you formed it on who you are, what your imagery looks like, what the experience is like, kind of person you are and personality, the relationships that you build and have built with others that may be influencing those people who contact you. So ultimately, to be successful, I think, is a lot of things, but the one I want to talk to you about is forming and fulfilling expectations. And so I think the first thing we have to do in doing that is we have to have a high level of clarity in what we do, a high level of clarity. And so you are your own enemy, you're your own worst enemy, because you understand what you do. And then you can make the mistake of thinking so does everyone else because it's crystal clear to you, but it's not crystal clear to them. Matter of fact, we have to take it like a funnel. You've got all this stuff that makes you or your photography you, and it pours into the top of this funnel. But man, we got to get down to the stream. When we start messaging it, we start showing it, we start taking it out in the marketplace. Clarity is key. Clarity is not a real sexy conversation because it's like, oh, we want to hear something more artsy, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that if you want to build a successful brand, people need to know who you are and what you do. I mean, that is the heart of clarity. Who are you and what do you do? And I think we need to, as I've said over and over again, you need to be less concerned that people like what you do and more concerned that they know what you do. Because I think when you are always trying to make sure people like what you do, you're changing what you do over and over again. And you're turning it from all these amazing flavors to vanilla. You're making it bland because, sorry to those folks that love vanilla, just an example. But you're making it bland so that, oh, what if somebody likes this? What if they like that? Matter of fact, I even remember in early marketing days, we kind of sold out on our black and white relationship portraits in the marketplace and decided that's what we're going to show people. Those are they have the most powerful stories behind them. We're going to share those stories with people. And so we quit showing a lot of things. And the first thing came to my mind is, well, what if somebody doesn't know I do this? Or what if they wanted that? And we what if ourselves into an unclear message. We what if ourselves into this dilution. And then we're like, well, I don't understand why people just compare me to everyone else. You have to be different in a lot of ways. And so, in your art and the way people connect to your art, the stories that tell, all of those things have to be different. And then you have to be able to take that out and express it. And you have to be okay that you're not the right person for everybody. You have to be okay that there's somebody that might pass you up because they want something else. Because the reality is, and here's the flip side of that coin, when you define who you are, and you do it well, and you do it with clarity, and you do it with visual understanding and verbal understanding, all of those things in the marketplace, right? Then the people that love it, they recognize that as what they want. They'll travel to you, they'll pay your prices because they want you and what you do. And they don't throw you in the pool with everyone else. And so that takes some time. It takes a lot of intention. It takes being very purposeful in what you do. All of those things kind of weigh in. And then, but yet, and the worst part of it, the other part, I think it's the worst part, it takes some time. It takes time for people to see and recognize who you are. But like everything that's out there, it's a two-edged sword. The other thing is the less you do, the more clarity to what you do, the quicker people begin to recognize it. And because you're not showing them so many things. So yeah, there's an advantage to that. So you got to do a little soul searching. And like I say, you have to take responsibility for people understanding it. And you have to have the gumption to say, if they don't like it, maybe I'm not the right person. Or maybe that person moves on, but the other person is going to step through my door because they love it. And ultimately, if you strip success down in our business, there's a number of key things, but I think one of those key things is that the success comes when it's the right photographer and the right client. I mean, ultimately, that's it. The right client, they love what you do. They're there for that, and they appreciate it. They want to celebrate the people they love with your art, the way you produce your art. And so you've done a good job messaging that. The other thing I think with forming and fulfilling expectations, part of it is visual, like seeing your style and liking it. But the other thing on it, I think, is the emotional side. And that is that you're forming their expectations that this is a different experience, that this is purpose-driven art that celebrates their family, tells their story. In other words, the photography becomes a vessel or vehicle, I should say, it's a better word, I think, a vehicle to carry the story. Because there's a lot of really good photographers out there, right? But boy, there's not many who use that to tell stories, right? Like maybe I could sit down and write a paper, but it might bore you stiff, right? But what if I wrote a story that brought you to tears? What if I wrote a story that changed your life? What if I wrote a story that had such meaning and depth you couldn't stop reading it, right? And so now that piece of paper or the text on that document goes way beyond that now. And now it is something that is changing how you see your life and the people you love, whatever the purpose of that might be. And so the same is true with what we do. And that's where you get into the magic pixie dust of photography, is where you are telling people stories. Now you're forming their expectations by maybe you're sharing other people's stories, and they're seeing your photography, the distinct style, the uniqueness of it, but they're also reading the stories and they're touched by those stories of those people in those images. Or maybe they just look at that image and it just brings an emotion to them, whatever that might be. And they're like, wow, they don't even think of it as, hey, I want a picture. They think of it as a piece of art that goes way beyond the surface of the paper, the lighting, and all of those type of things. Those are supporting elements, but goes way beyond that. Gosh, I could go on and on and on, but I think hopefully I've given you a good nugget here, some good details. But let's end with this, where we started, is that to be a successful brand, there are a number of things. But one of those key things, in my mind, is form people's expectations and then fulfill it. You're going to do that through consistency. You're going to do that through being intentional. You're going to do that through being excellent. You're going to do that through the way you connect with people, form their expectation, and then you'll be the only person that can fulfill it. And when you do that, when you get to that level, you're going to find amazing success.